Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Tadon, Statewide Program Manager for the Behavioral Traffic Safety Section at the Texas Department of Transportation, and I would like to welcome all of you to our Distracted Driving Summit. We have a lot of great speakers and topics planned for today. Our first break will be around 10 this morning, and we will break for lunch around noon. Please stop by our online expo hall during the breaks to visit all of our vendor booths. To start us off this morning, I would like to invite Kathy Kratz to say a few words. She serves as the Traffic Safety Division Deputy Director for the Texas Department of Transportation. Kathy?
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to welcome you to the 2023 Texas Distracted Driving Summit. I am humbled by the work you all do day in and day out to make our roads in Texas safer for everyone. Thank you for that and for taking the time to be here with us today. As you know, distracted driving continues to be a huge problem in our state and country. It takes many forms, ranging from texting and eating to grooming and talking while on the phone while driving. We are here today to call attention to the many dangers and risks that come with such behaviors, which kill hundreds of Texans every year and injure thousands more. Last year alone, there were 95,777 distracted driving-related crashes on Texas roadways. Those crashes resulted in 487 deaths and 2,824 serious injuries. With millions of drivers now using their cell phone in their vehicle to talk and text, along with the ever-increasing technology and entertainment in our cars, our roadways are becoming more dangerous for everyone. Almost 1 in 6 traffic crashes in Texas is caused by a distracted driver. These crashes are 100% preventable if people would simply put away their phone and other distractions when they get behind the wheel and give their full attention to driving. We must do whatever we can to discourage all forms of distracted driving, with the overall goal of saving lives and reducing crashes. We want people across Texas to understand that driving safely is a very serious matter, and it takes paying complete attention when you're behind the wheel to get to your destination safely. That means no eating, reading, or adjusting your radio while driving. When you take your focus off the road, you not only put yourself at risk, but also everyone around you, whether they are loved ones in the car with you or strangers walking, biking, or driving on the same road. We have to remember that those statistics I cited are real people with family, friends, and coworkers. Losing even one life causes a huge ripple effect of loss. Every day for more than 20 years, at least one person has died on Texas roadways. We have to end this streak of daily deaths. TxDOT aims to reach this goal to end all fatalities on Texas roads by 2050. We've also set a goal of cutting fatality crashes in half by the year 2035. Last year in 2022, 4,485 people were killed. Cutting that in half would potentially save 2,242 people if we go strictly by numbers. But we all know violent traffic crashes are more than just numbers, and we are all dedicated to this effort. As part of that effort, TxDOT's Talk, Text, Crash Distracted Driving campaign is a key component of the In the Street Texas, a broader social media and word of mouth effort that encourages drivers to make safe choices while behind the wheel, such as wearing a seatbelt, driving the speed limit, never texting and driving, and never driving under the influence of alcohol or other drugs. Thank you for joining us today as we discuss the causes of distracted driving and take a look at the many efforts aimed at tackling the problem. But first, I would like to say thank you to our sponsors for helping to underwrite this summit today and for their ongoing work to improve traffic safety in our state. Our bronze sponsors are the Texas Automobile Dealers Association and the Insurance Council of Texas. Our silver sponsor is AAA Texas. And now we will have a few words from Eric Berkwin, Vice President of Safety Services at Texas Mutual, our gold sponsor this year.
Thank you, Kathy, and thanks to TxDOT for letting Texas Mutual be a part of this fantastic event to create even more awareness around the hazards of distracted driving. Texas Mutual Insurance Company is the state's leading provider of workers' compensation. More than 76,000 business owners rely on us to meet their needs, covering nearly 1.5 employees every day. Needless to say, keeping employees safe is at the heart of what we do. Over the past several years, distracted driving has been elevated in the conversation around safe driving practices for us and for everybody in the industry in the great state of Texas. People seem to understand the dangers of it, but many people still drive distracted. Whether the excuse is that you just need to quickly look at the text that came in, choose your favorite song, distracted driving, even for a brief moment, can have devastating consequences. It's up to us all to continue to talk about it with our friends and our family. And through campaigns like this, we want to eliminate the distractions as much as possible and really impact those statistics and get everyone home safe at the end of the day. We're all aware of the increasing number of crashes that happen on the job in Texas. We deal with hundreds of claims for injuries and deaths that occur every year in causes related to motor vehicle crashes. These are some of the most severe. Kathy went over some of those fantastic statistics. These crashes take an enormous toll. They're costly in terms of dollars to employers, and most importantly, they can cost lives. By helping employers invest in driving safety, we can help keep Texas safe and Texas businesses moving forward. There are reasons why we joined TxDOT's mission to save lives on the Texas roadway. We want to make sure employers and employees know what they can do to stay safe on and off the job. I emphasize that both on and off the job. To prepare for the potential dangers that come with driving, we offer a four-point strategy for employers to prioritize safe driving. These include driver selection, driver conduct, driver training, and driver monitoring. The first step is the selection, which means you hire employees who demonstrate safe driving behavior and share your commitment to safety. Then driver conduct, establish expectations, explain how you'll address infractions through written driving program, and enforce those. Next, you'll need to provide driver training consistently, which requires an investment in order to prioritize safe driving. And finally, we recommend you use in-vehicle monitoring systems to evaluate and provide performance feedback to each individual driver. At Texas Mutual, we also want to be an example for our customers and the employers in the great state of Texas when it comes to safe driving on the job. And as such, not only do we offer and follow our four-point strategy, but we also have adopted a zero-use policy for cell phones when operating motor vehicles. Our hope is that when companies establish policies that ban cell phone use when driving on the job, whether it's in a company vehicle or a personal vehicle, that the safe driving behavior will carry over into their personal life and affect those others that they touch. We want people to recognize that no matter how good a driver we think we are, our brains simply don't allow us to do two things at once. If we're doing anything that takes away from the focus of driving, we can't concentrate on the task at hand, and that results in fender benders and more serious crashes and ultimately sometimes death. The more drivers we can convince that distracted driving is dangerous and is 100% preventable, the safer we will all be. We know raising awareness through education ensures safety of so many, from drivers to pedestrians, roadside crews, and other drivers. We are extremely proud to partner with TxDOT so we can save as many lives as possible on Texas roadways. Thank you for having us and allowing us to sponsor this fantastic event. And everyone, please focus on safety. Driving when you're behind the wheel, safety and distraction, eliminating distraction are the first tasks at hand. I'll turn it back over to Kathy.
Thank you, Eric, for Texas Mutual support and for the support of all of our sponsors. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Jamie White, founder of Allie's Way. She will share her family's heartbreaking story and how they are using the loss of their beloved daughter, Allie Estelle, to combat distracted driving and the devastating consequences it can have. Jamie, thank you for joining us today.
This is what we've heard time and time again. And I want to show you or share with you our photos. So this is the way we were in spring of 2019. Only our faith has kept us out of the deep, dark trenches that happens when this tragedy strikes. But many families aren't able to see the light through these tragedies. And truly, it's our job to make sure that these families never have to suffer this fate. Allie's Way needs all of you to truly make a difference in the lives of the people in our communities. Good morning. My name is Jamie White, and it's my privilege to share with you today. I'm the founder and executive director of Allie's Way, nonprofit organization built to spread awareness about the dangers of distracted driving in honor of Allie White, our 2-year-old that was killed by a distracted driver back in 2019. So I want to ask you, have you ever been told things like, it'll never happen to me. I can multitask. I've been texting and driving for years. It's so sad that family lost their little girl, but it must have been the parents' fault. Yes, as shocking as this is, I have heard this so many times before in presentations and discussions with people in our community. And it's just a few of the excuses that you'll hear, if you haven't already, when you speak about distracted driving. These statistics came from NHTSA and were published in Forbes Advisor. Many people think distracted driving is an issue for the younger generations. And yes, we do need to approach that generation as well. But as many of you know, it's affecting all ages. Allie's killer was 42 when she killed Allie. And you've probably already heard Allie's story, and you may have seen this video, but when people get to know the victims of distracted driving, suddenly those statistics are no longer just a number. They're a face. We're putting a face to a cause. And then it wakes them up. And that's what we need to do in our communities. We have to get these stories out there to wake our drivers up, because it could happen to them. It could even happen to you. Now I'd like to introduce Allie and share with you our Allie's Way PSA endorsed by TxDOT and show you how tragedy can happen in a single second.
So what I would like the world to know about Allie is that she was amazing. She was such a beautiful child inside and out. She brought our family so much love. Allie was incredible with her siblings. She and her older sister, Madison, were extremely close. The boys, on the other hand, she liked to boss around. She was kind of like a little mom, and she would keep the boys in check. But they adored her. They followed her everywhere, and they just loved her. Allie just loved spending time with us. So I think that made her the happiest, just that one-on-one time with her. We enjoyed going to the park. We would feed the ducks, and she would play in the playscape. She loved going to get ice cream at Baskin Robbins or, wherever we went. Or there's another time when we were on vacation in Orlando, and she and the other kids were on a pier and overlooking a big lake or pond. Then she walked down and she wanted to get closer to the ducks. The sun started hitting her, like just a beam of sunshine came through, and she spread her arms out and she started twirling around just because she was happy. And it was the most beautiful moment because the sun hit her just right, and her beautiful blonde hair was just shining and her eyes were sparkling, and she just had the happiest look on her face, like she was just enjoying herself so much, and she was twirling around like most 2-year-olds do. When I watch her video during my presentations, it's almost like I'm reliving those moments. So they're beautiful, and I tend to smile because it feels good just to almost kind of put myself back in that moment. But then it's so sad and so devastating because then I know the moment passes. The day that it happened, we came home from church and the boys were getting ready to go to soccer, and Allie wanted to go because she loved watching her brothers play soccer. When they got to the soccer field, my husband parked in the closest possible parking spot to the field. He parked right beside a median, which was in full view of incoming cars. He got Allie out of her car seat, put sunscreen on her, and he leaned in for a split second to put the sunscreen away. And when he did, Allie walked from his right side behind his back to his left side, and then she started stepping off the curve because she had seen Brady waving to her from the other side of the aisle. And of course, she naturally wanted to be by her brother, so she stepped off the curve. At that moment, Chris had seen a car coming into the parking lot way too fast. She was holding her phone to her face with her right hand. She didn't look to make sure there were no pedestrians. Her boys in the back were yelling at her to stop. My husband tried to pull Allie up and out of the way. He was actually right beside Allie at that point because when he saw her coming into the parking lot too fast, he immediately went by Allie's side and tried to move her.
Where's your bunny?
Yes.
It was too late, and as I said, she was going too fast. So he tried to pull her up out of the way. He couldn't get her out of the way in time, and the driver ran over my daughter in front of my husband.
When we approached, we saw that Allie was not moving and people were trying to give her first aid. We had the fire department come in and the EMS folks also came, and it was a very emotional scene for everyone involved. As a father, a parent, it was very emotional for me as well. Our investigation then started. We were able to identify the vehicle that had struck Allie, and the witnesses on scene told us that they believed she was on the phone when the accident happened. So our investigation centered around the distracted driving and also if there was any other criminal aspect to this accident.
When we lost Allie, I lost a large part of myself. As her mom, we were really bonded and we were really connected. She turned on a piece of my personality, part of my character that I didn't know I had. and now that's gone. And we can't get that back. My husband and I have been so good about forging on. We've used our faith as humongous strength building tools to get us through all of this, because without faith you can't survive this. The first thing we did was we said we have to end this. We can't let this happen to another family. We need awareness, and we need to change behaviors of our drivers. So in January of 2020, we created our 501c3 called Allie's Way. And really, I think we wanted to keep Allie's memory alive. We wanted to save others, and we wanted to share her story with everybody. After we started Allie's Way, things just started progressing so quickly. I was invited to speak, of course, because of COVID, on virtual Zoom meetings for TxDOT, for AAA. I did some work with State Farm, and eventually I was contacted by Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, their passenger safety program. Allie's Angels is a teen community service group. There are adults out there that are already on the roads. They've already got bad habits. The teens are new drivers. They don't have those bad habits yet. So let's get to those drivers before they build those habits. So I thought, by building this teen community service group, those teens go out into the community and serve the community and do good for the community in Allie's honor. So it's not only spreading the message, it's teaching them about safe driving. It's spreading the message about Allie's story and distracted driving awareness while they're serving the community and doing something really nice.
Just that the white families advocacy has led us to, as police officers and as a police department here at the Round Rock Police Department, to take distracted driving very seriously. Since this incident, we've become more educated, and we've used enforcement efforts to hopefully decrease the prevalence of distracted driving crashes throughout the city. And it was a unique opportunity through Jamie's advocacy to learn more about this problem and to continue to enforce those laws.
I lost my beautiful 2-year-old daughter to a distracted driver. This is completely preventable. This has to end now.
When you find that you're in a hurry and you need an escape, when all you have is a pile of worries, I'll help you carry the weight. Just stay lost here with me.
Thank you, Jamie.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, good. So distracted driving kills within seconds, and many times those affected feel hopeless, shattered, and lost. And Allie's Way was built to give these victims and their families a voice. We need to give these victims a voice. And that's why I'm here today. To truly make a difference in distracted driving, we must be loud and we must talk about it constantly, because it's not going away. It's going to get worse. And it is getting worse every single year. The reason Allie's killer did not see Allie is because she was holding her phone to her face, which, you know, you guys are traffic safety specialists. You know that blocks peripheral vision, takes concentration away from the drive, and it's a distraction. Even the kids in her car were not able to get her attention. She was so focused on that conversation. And this is the information we need to get out there to these drivers on our roads. Here are some ideas that we could possibly use to make a larger impact in our communities. We need to share victim stories like Allie's to show that these are real people. They're not just statistics. When we say, you know, distracted driving has increased by over 11% in the last year. That's not just a statistic. These are people in our communities. These are our loved ones. These are our friends, our family. And we need to make that abundantly clear in our communities. So we can talk to our teen groups, encourage them to build groups of their own. We have a group called Allie's Angels in Round Rock that was mentioned in the video. These teens volunteer in their community on behalf of Allie's Way. And this gives them an opportunity to share Allie's story because they are sharing the why. Why are they serving their community and who is Allie? That gives them an opportunity to share distracted driving prevention, share Allie's story, put a face to a cause, and they get leadership skills as well as impacting their community. And it's always good on a college resume. So we keep that in mind. We need to get this PSA out there. It's been massively effective when we've used it. So Allie's Way is working with the Round Rock Police Chief to get Spanish subtitles put on this video so that we can appeal to even Spanish-speaking communities because they need this message too. We can work with your municipal court system. So if we can get this video played on a loop in the waiting areas in the courts, we can impact a much larger audience. We can impact people that have already done distracted driving or texting and driving. I'm working with the Williamson County judges here to get this video played in our court systems. And in fact, this idea actually came from a Williamson County judge, just by meeting with them and discussing with them and having brainstorming sessions. We can collaborate with wonderful people like Texas A&M or Permian Road Safety Coalition, AAA, of course, to obtain opportunities for and I mentioned brainstorming sessions before. So let's see, there we go. Hosting brainstorming sessions with local authorities like our law enforcement, our trucking agencies, AAA, PTA, and lawmakers encourage participation in distracted driving prevention efforts. I've worked with the following organizations to educate the public and our lawmakers about distracted driving's impact on our roads so they will know that it is a serious problem in our state. A lot of these organizations have already seen that it's a serious problem. The Texas Trucking Association is a major one of them. They're supposed to be, driving undistracted according to their rules and regulations. However, other people on our roads are driving distracted. So that doesn't help us at all, because if the truck driver is driving undistracted and there's another distracted driver that causes a collision or a fatality, that's a problem. So we need everybody to be on board across our communities and our roads. We also need moms groups. Mothers are the fiercest protectors of their children. So we need to encourage our mothers to organize groups of friends and family and gather in support of distracted driving prevention. They can share stories and facts about distracted driving in their communities to advocate for safer drivers, especially in school zones, because as you guys know already, we know that there's a ban on texting and driving in school zones. However, we see it happen all too often. I've worked with TASA. I've also worked in collaboration with the Texas PTA. And the feedback is that we see it every day. Parents even are texting and driving in school zones, and it needs to end. So we need moms to speak up and speak at these PTA meetings wherever they're comfortable sharing their mission to help us end these senseless tragedies. You are safety specialists, so you know these statistics, but the fact is that even our lawmakers don't know that this is a problem. So we need to get out and we need to build our distracted driving prevention army. There's so much that we can do. This is kind of a slide of the summary of ideas that I discussed. And these are the statistics from TxDOT, which you guys are already aware of. Allie's tragedy shook our family to the core, and it changed our lives forever. There's no going back. It changed the trajectory of my life as a mom. And since then, my role is not just to be a mom to our other children, but also to be a warrior in our communities and our state. And this is just the beginning of what we could do together to end this epidemic of distracted driving. So instead of being broken mentally, physically, and spiritually, because this tragedy will do that to families, I chose the path of most resistance to fight distracted driving. There's a higher purpose, and you are making the difference by taking that rugged road less traveled. The easy way would have been just simply to give up. There was a bill filed in Allie's honor to hold offenders accountable for taking lives due to distracted driving. Though it didn't pass, we know that these bills did bring awareness to our state capitol, and it brought education that really, really needed to be brought forward. And we can keep educating and make sure that everyone is aware of the tragic impact of distracted driving. So we do need to become champions for distracted driving prevention, and we can lead the way in our communities and in our state. My strategy is simple. Just make friends. Build relationships with those who are passionate about making a positive difference on our roads. You guys are already doing that. We need to reach out into our communities and make sure that we expand that. Prepare for the objections and roadblocks ahead of time, because you will have them. And I've incurred a lot of them. But we just keep forging forward. We set a goal and we strategize on how to get there. We stay focused on one thing at a time until your list has been completely checked off. We know we can't multitask while we're driving, and guess what? We can't do it in our goals either. We need to focus on one thing at a time. We're more productive and creative when we don't multitask on these goals. We need to focus, be creative, and be prepared. Relentless forward progress is the battle. And every roadblock that you face is another reason to keep fighting for distracted driving prevention and keep winning. For me, the mission to end distracted driving is personal. And when it's personal, you can make a much bigger difference. We need to make it personal for those out there who hard against distracted driving prevention, because this is a hard road. For somebody that suffered tragedy, this is an unbelievably hard road, but it's worth it. My hero is Allie. And I work in her honor all over the state to prevent another family from having to go through this. With the help of AAA, Allie's story was shared recently in California. So we're excited that we have expanded our reach into California. And thank you so much to AAA for helping us do that. We will be expanding into other states as Allie's Way continues to expand our reach, working with several advocates like yourselves and national organizations to put a face to distracted driving. And as you can see here, Allie was included in this national report, and we're so grateful for having her highlighted here. I've already experienced this loss, and I still suffer from it today. I will suffer from it for the rest of my life. But there's so many families that shouldn't have to. And we are just the warriors to prevent that from happening. You are all heroes. So let's go save some lives together. This is our website, and I'd love for you all to see the incredible work that we've been doing, that Allie's Way has done so far. And so if you would like to scan that QR code, it goes straight to our website. And here's my contact information. So I welcome the opportunity for brainstorming sessions, questions. Let's talk about what we can do to work together. I want to thank you so much for doing everything that you do to prevent road fatalities. It's remarkable. You all are remarkable people. And it's an honor for me to be here today. And I thank you so much to our partners for all of their support and all their continued work to prevent distracted driving. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'll hand it back to you guys.
Thank you, Jamie, for being here today and for sharing your family story. Just a few housekeeping notes before I introduce our next speakers. During each session, feel free to use the Q&A tab to the right of this window to ask a question. The chat tab is for more general comments. Also, please fill out a summit evaluation at the end of the day, which can be found in the attendee lounge. Next, I would like to welcome our partners at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, better known to many of us as NHTSA. Dr. Maggie Gunnels is Regional Administrator of Region 6, which includes Texas. She is joined by Regional 6 Regional Program Manager Becky Walker. Together, they're going to help us more fully understand the problem of distracted driving.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us. I'm Maggie Gunnels. I'm here with my colleague, Becky Walker, and we have both the privilege of living and working in Texas, and we're both native Texans, which is a very big bonus as well. So I want to start just by thanking Jamie for sharing your heart, your family, and your story, and turning your passion into action. Really, thank you. It's just an incredibly inspiring story. So thank you for that. So I am actually very briefly going to introduce Becky Walker. Let me go to the next slide. And we're going to talk, as we always do, about data. And Kathy and Jamie have said, the very important part about the data that we all use, that these are people. These are friends and families, colleagues. These are people. But it's important that we talk about the data because this drives our programs. And we'll talk about distracted driving and some approaches, not only at the national level, but very focused on Texas. Next slide, please. And our mission, I think we all share, we want to stop the deaths on our roads. I also would like to point out that there are also injuries on the roads as well as deaths. So in thinking about the problems that we face and the challenges we all face, whether it's driving to work or going home or going out on an errand, we really need to think about the fact that people are dying and people are being injured. And as Jamie said, there are incredible losses happening every day. And these are some of the things our agency does. I believe many of you are familiar with this. I did want to mention that not only from the data, communication, research, and programs, we provide grant funding to states, but in case you weren't familiar, we also provide grant funding to tribal communities through our work with the Bureau of Indian Affairs Indian Highway Safety Program. And of course, we have a robust vehicle safety program as well. And next slide, we have regional offices across the country, and we also have distracted driving coordinators assigned to every regional office across our country, and of course, programs that are directed from our colleagues up at headquarters. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Becky Walker. So thank you.
Thank you, Maggie, very much. Appreciate it. Yes. For more than 45 years, the National Center for Statistics and Analysis, we call it NCSA, is an office within the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and it has provided a wide range of analytical and statistical support to NHTSA and the highway safety community. We'll be using much of what we call FARS data, which is the Fatality Analysis Reporting System. And we're also going to be referencing the FIRST tool, which is the Fatality and Injury Reporting System. We call that FIRST. And at the end, we'll have links for y'all to take photos and all of that so you can check it out and do really great searches for yourself. Next. So please keep your cell phone handy so you can take snapshots. So by now you've heard of our good trend for so many years. Well, that good trend has reversed, unfortunately. Back in the 70s and 80s, seatbelts became mainstream. MAD was founded in 1980, and we didn't have so many cell phones. The decade of decline was so encouraging, but we all know what happened in 2020. COVID, social unrest, and things changed dramatically. And unfortunately, the increased trends in fatalities in 2020 continued into 2021 and 2022. But there is a ray of hope here, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. We do have some early estimates that we want to share with you in just a bit. Next. The big picture is more than concerning, and this is with the hard and fast data that we have for 2021. This slide will progress with just one more click, please. With the number of lives lost, injured, and the number of crashes, one more click. And what is actually costing us is quite staggering. NHTSA reports that the number of deaths linked to driver distraction was 3,522 nationwide. And in 2021, that's an increase of 380 fatalities compared to 2020. I know that we have lots better ways to spend our efforts, time, and our money. Next. Here's another way of looking at the overall crash figures, which is also quite alarming. This is a breakdown on other modifiers surrounding these fatalities, and there are way too many red arrows going up. Next. But what all does this mean for Texans? How does this affect us? And how else do we compare with the rest of the country? So that's so many times one of the most common questions I get asked. Hey, how does Texas relate to everywhere else? So this is another way of looking at the numbers. The raw numbers are not a fair comparison. Texas is in the blue and US is in the yellow. This compares vehicle miles traveled. We call them VMTs. The sad and hard fact is when it comes to fatalities per VMTs for 2021, Texas still has the unfortunate lion's share of that rate. And in other words, the rate is still higher than the US's rate for 2021. But when the bars get closer together, that's what we want to look for here. And that's what I'm going to continue to track for us because I have some new data, early estimates that I've mentioned before, that's showing great promise. So keep in mind, sometimes it takes a while to show effects of great projects and countermeasures. Next slide. Now, specifically for the distracted driving data in the state, go ahead and click some more in. And how does Texas stand up to the rest of the country in this area? Go ahead and click again, because the slide will be progressive. And there we go. The numbers look pretty dramatic. Texas is on the left again, and the US is on the right in yellow. And oh my, that jump in Texas from 2020 to 2021 is alarming. The rest of the country had a statistical jump as well, but please note, okay, the rate of distracted driving fatalities from 2018 to 2021 was actually less than the US's rate. I'm going to continue to track this one as well. So now NHTSA recognizes there are limitations regarding to the collection and reporting of FARS and our national CRIS data, which is opposed to the state data, CRIS data, with regard to driver distraction. Now, the data collections for FARS and CRIS are based on PCRs. Those are police reports and information gathered after the crashes have occurred. The noteworthy challenge for collection of distracted driving data is that PCR. PCRs vary across jurisdictions and create inconsistencies in reporting. Many variables on the PCR are nearly universal, but distraction, unfortunately, is not one of those variables. Some PCRs identify distraction as a distinct reporting field, while others don't have such a field. And identification of distraction is based upon the narrative portion of the report. So this variation in reporting forms contributes to variation in the other reported numbers of distracted affected crashes. Any national or state count of distraction affected crashes should be interpreted with this limitation in mind. So are you ready for some good news? Yes, and thank you. Now for the early estimates I mentioned. So grab your cell phones, as here is the QR code for the traffic safety facts. Early estimates, I said, January through March of 2023. I want you to have it electronically, so we'll take a few seconds for you to take a photo. But for the first quarter of 2023, NHTSA shows a statistical projection of traffic fatalities with a decrease of about 3.3% as compared to the projected fatalities during that same time in 2022. So 3.3, that's the national reduction. But the big news, Texas is showing, and this is only early estimates, a 5.6% decrease in estimated fatalities in the first quarter of 2023. So, and that's when compared to the same months in 2022. So we have bragging rights because we're doing better than the national average. So well done, Texas. please keep in mind, you'll see these numbers change as they are only preliminary and the data will continue to arrive. Next slide. Our NHTSA First Query tool that I mentioned just a little while ago has a function that you'll want to explore all of these sites you can even go to a Google map view in these links. So go ahead and get a snapshot of this if you want to from your cameras, so you'll have a record of where to go to pull up and do these really great runs yourself. If you're interested in learning more about this, we can even set up a demo in the future. Next slide. The goal of the NHTSA Distracted Driving Program is to reduce the incidence of distracted driving, including the use of electronic devices while driving, raise awareness of its dangers, and reduce traffic crashes attributed to driver distraction. Our program seeks to change driver behavior to reduce texting and other driver distractions and to help the public recognize the risks and consequences of distracted driving. Next slide. Here's a little bit of recent history. In 2009, the DOT Secretary hosted the very first Distracted Driving Summit to bring focus to the issue and to identify strategies and stakeholders. So there were a lot of good folks around that table. This was the first time NHTSA took on distracted driving as a traffic safety issue when cell phones actually became mainstream. And the president issued an executive order in October of 2009 prohibiting federal employees from texting while driving government vehicles or while using government-supplied cell phones while driving any vehicle. Next. We all know what distracted driving is when we see it, but how does NHTSA actually define it? Well, in a nutshell, it's anything that takes your attention off of driving. Next. And why is texting and driving so dangerous? Well, because it involves all three types of distraction: the visual, the manual, the cognitive. Next. Current legislation across the country, 48 states, DC, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, they ban text messaging for all drivers. This is really good news. We've seen more of those darker states here coming into play here. While no state bans all cell phone use for all drivers, but 36 states and DC ban all cell phone use by novice or teen drivers, and 23 states and DC prohibit it for school bus drivers. We might be mindful to also discuss the difference between primary and secondary enforcement. Primary enforcement is when a law enforcement officer can pull over a vehicle and issue a citation for the sole purpose of distracted driving. And then secondary, when the officer must have another reason other than distracted driving to stop the vehicle. The next slide. So 26 states, DC, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands enforce a primary handheld cell phone use for all drivers at all times except for emergencies. And an additional 5 states enforce a primary handheld cell phone ban for all drivers in school and or work zones. In school zones and work zones, most states have a texting ban, but this shows those school and work zones primary enforcement for handheld. Now notice too, one thing, I've seen where those blue colored states are coming into the middle. That's a real phenomenon that we've seen where the East and the West Coast are start limiting cell phone use and strengthening their state laws around that. So I think that's very interesting. You will see that from the East Coast and the West Coast come closer into the middle. Next slide. So keep in mind, because states create various laws in various circumstances, the wording will be different. No two states are alike. There are variables for each, and unfortunately, it takes a high-profile crash many times to create change for new laws, such as Allie's Way. And within these new laws, there are often specific areas addressed. Many states have a secondary laws or sometimes no laws at all for most drivers. Texas and Arkansas do have handheld bans in school zones. So that's why it's important to know the laws in your state, because not one size does not fit all around this. Next slide. I want to bring to light the National Occupant Protection Use Survey. We call it NOPUS. It observes, it's a great study. It observes 3 types of driver electronic device use while driving. First of all, it looks at holding cell phones to the ears. That's a big one for Allie's Way. And speaking with visible headsets on and visibly manipulating handheld devices. So the percentage of drivers holding cell phones to their ears actually decreased. 2.6%, we'll take it, in 2020 to 2.5% in 2021. So that's good news. Just a little baby steps if we have to do it that way. The percentage of drivers speaking with visible headsets remained unchanged, unfortunately. And the percentage of drivers visibly manipulating handheld devices while driving increased from 2.8% in 2020 to 3.4% in 2021. This was not a statistically significant increase, but data collected for drivers visibly manipulating handheld devices while traveling in 2021 included manipulating infotainment systems. So as cell phones got smarter, unfortunately, we did not. This was an errant departure from the usual data collection protocol, such as the data point for visible manipulation of handheld devices in 2021 is not connected to the rest of the trend line. Next slide. Here are some more results of that NOPUS study. An estimated 373,066 passengers, vehicle drivers were holding cell phones to their ears while driving at a typical daylight moment in 2021. NOPUS found that handheld cell phone use continued to be slightly higher among female drivers than male drivers. And I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into that in just a bit because we've had a brand new study shed a little bit more light into this. Handheld cell phone is highest among 16 to 24-year-old drivers. That's a tough age to reach, and lowest among drivers 70 and older. So handheld phone use increased among 16 to 24-year-old drivers, unfortunately, after consecutive years of decreasings in that age group. Next. The data continues to be more concerning. 8% of fatal crashes, 14% of injury crashes, and 13% of all police reported motor vehicle crashes in 2021 were reported as distraction-affected crashes. Also in 21, there were 3,522 people killed and an estimated additional 362,415 people injured in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. In 2021, there were 566 non-motorized, that's pedestrians, pedecyclists, and others killed in distraction-affected crashes. Just a quick note, I mentioned this a little bit earlier ago, the Fatality Analysis Reporting System is fatality data, and CRIS, this is NHTSA's injury database, which was created in 2016, shows the injuries. I can definitely see why people get confused, but between the state's CRIS reporting system, which is phenomenal as well, and NHTSA's CRIS, which is CRSS as opposed to CRIS, it stands for Crash Reporting Sampling System. Both are nationally representative, but not just specific to Texas. So this is the most recent FARS data available, and this is also NHTSA's injury database. Next. Here are just a few examples of the types of research NHTSA does, from comprehensive literature to technology, demographics around distracted driving to programs that really make a difference, like the Buckle Up, Phone Down. Those are catchy and effective, the one thumb up, one thumb down for the Buckle Up, Phone Down. Of special note, I'm excited to tell you about the most recent report. Folks, I just found out about this yesterday, so this is really hot off the press. Electronic device use, a review of the literature on addictive behaviors. It's so hot off the press, it's currently now being downloaded onto the NHTSA website, just being released today. So some big takeaways from that study are, in fact, I'll give you the website where to go in just a second, that cell phone use and driving is considered problematic device use. It's not an actual addiction, so it says it does, because it does not meet the actual definition of addiction, but it does mimic aspects of addiction, such as changes in brain chemistry. Also, visual distractions are more than dangerous than the manual of the cognitive distractions, and it reinforces just what I had said earlier. And in the past, we've seen the prevalence of distracted driving, which is higher among women than men. However, this is the fun part. Just recently, the difference in electronic device use while driving has been deemed insignificant between men and women. So women are getting smarter here on this. We're keeping our phones down and narrowing that gap there. So in other words, women no longer have this unfortunate majority of the distracted driving program area. This is interesting because most other traffic safety areas, impaired driving, seatbelt use, speeding, etc., men are the more common offenders here. So once again, the new report, Electronic Device Use, a review of the literature on addictive behaviors. You can find it soon on the nhtsa.gov/behavioral-research.gov. So I'm excited to announce that. It is so fresh off the press. So next slide. I mentioned the NHTSA website. It serves as an information source to help raise awareness, provide education, and support safety advocacy on this issue. Next. And speaking of advocacy, NHTSA's campaign resources can be found at Traffic Safety Marketing and includes enforcement, social norming, and evergreen materials to assist local partners to raise awareness. NHTSA's current enforcement campaign is titled You Drive, You Text, You Pay, and we do recognize April as National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Next. So what will you find on trafficsafetymarketing.gov? Fill in the blanks, earn media templates, templates for law enforcement personnel, law enforcement initiatives materials, downloadable static and animated infographics, traffic safety fact sheets, and other general resources such as logos, digital ads, national advertisement. And we are about to show you one of those right now. And we call this first video Deja Vu. So if y'all would mind going ahead and showing that video, please.
Winston.
We're going to roll straight on into the next video. And yes, we've gone from a very serious one to a more lighthearted one.
Baby, you see, you're so right for me, and I'm right for you. I love the things you do, like sweet tasting wine. Your lips are so divine. Your loving turns me on. My lonely days are gone. That's why I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never gonna let you go. Baby, never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go.
All right, so thank you for showing those. NHTSA runs national ads, but relies on the states to complement and amplify these life-saving messages, as well as providing law enforcement presence and activities during high visibility enforcement periods. So And speaking thereof, thank you for your work on the impaired driving prevention and the high visibility enforcement that went through Labor Day. TxDOT's Drive Sober, No Regrets campaign was, again, a great partnership with the federal campaign as it drives that message home. And so here are some other things that will be happening and coming up soon. So next slide. And at this point, I am thrilled to bring on Maggie Gunnels, and she will be discussing the safe system approach. Maggie?
I think we can just, Becky, I think we can just highlight the next slide and just for about just a couple of seconds, and then we'll go on to the last slide. This is what we believe, and this is, of course, the safe system approach with most, if not all of you are familiar with this approach. And as we come to an end, I think we can come to the slide with our information now. And come on to the last slide. And I just like to say, Becky, you can come back on so you can wave goodbye. And thank you, Becky, for presenting such a wonderful illustration of the information and the work that we do. But really, when it comes to it, it's all about the work that you all do. We will support it in any way, shape, or form that we can. And in thinking about the safe system approach, which is the approach that the Department of Transportation and NHTSA take, looking at all the aspects of a safe system, really, Jamie brought it to the very important point that it really comes down to taking action. What action can you do? I love the ideas that were presented. I think that those are some things we can be involved in. And please let us know how we can help you. So we really have to take a serious look. And I know everyone is here because we're serious about this issue. And we have to stop the issue and work with teens and all who are at risk for dying on the roads. So thank you all so much. And Becky, why don't you have the last word, and be safe, everybody. I'll turn it to you.
Well, thank you, Maggie. I appreciate everything. And certainly thank you, TxDOT, for putting forth so much effort around this issue. And I'm grateful for y'all. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you both for being here and working so closely with us over the years. This brings us to our first break. We will reconvene at 10:30 a.m. I encourage you to stop by the expo hall when you have a moment. We'll see you back at 10:30.